The message came on a Tuesday. After decades of sending signals into the dark void of space, humanity finally received a response. Radio telescopes across Earth picked up the transmission simultaneously, a clear, structured signal that could only be artificial. William Carter stared at the decoded message on his screen, his coffee going cold beside him. As the head of Earth's newly formed interstellar diplomatic corps, he had trained for this moment his entire career, but nothing could truly prepare anyone for first contact. "It's really happening," said Lisa Novak, his assistant and the team's communications specialist. Her voice held a mixture of awe and anxiety. The message was simple. Representatives of the Galactic Council would arrive in Earth orbit in 7 days. They requested a meeting with human leaders to discuss Earth's place in the wider galactic community. For the next week, Earth transformed. Global conflicts paused. Stock markets fluctuated wildly. Religious leaders offered varying interpretations, and in Washington, D.C., Carter assembled the most qualified team he could find. "We need to present the best of humanity," Carter told the assembled experts in the White House Situation Room. "These beings have likely been watching us for some time. They know our flaws. Let's show them our strengths." When the alien ship appeared, it defied all expectations. No dramatic entry, no clouds parting, just a sleek vessel that suddenly occupied Earth orbit, as if it had always been there. Earth's most advanced sensors hadn't detected its approach. The Council delegation agreed to meet at a neutral location, a hastily prepared conference center in Geneva. Security was tight, journalists crowded behind barriers, and Carter felt the weight of 7 billion humans on his shoulders as he waited at the entrance. The aliens emerged from their transport, and humanity got its first look at their cosmic neighbors. 3 different species made up the delegation. The tallest, a blue-skinned humanoid with 4 arms, introduced himself as Ambassador Zeth Kalun of the Sorlaxian hegemony. Behind him stood a pair of insectoid beings and a floating creature that resembled a jellyfish made of light. "We welcome you to Earth," Carter said, performing the careful bow his team had decided upon. Respectful, but not submissive. Zeth Kalun's translator device hummed. "How quaint. You have prepared a greeting ritual." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. The Galactic Council acknowledges Earth's achievement in developing primitive spacefaring technology. Carter maintained his diplomatic smile, but Lisa Novak, standing slightly behind him, caught the condescension in the alien's tone. She exchanged glances with their xenolinguist, who gave a subtle nod. He'd heard it too. The first meeting lasted 3 hours. The aliens explained the basics. The Galactic Council included over 300 species from across 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way. They had protocols for integrating emerging civilizations like Earth. The process could take centuries. "You understand," said Zeth Kalun, "that by our standards, you are quite undeveloped. Your species still struggles with planetary unity. Your technology is charming but limited. You have barely touched your neighboring planets." Carter kept his voice level. "Every species develops at its own pace. Ambassador, we're eager to learn." "Of course you are," Zeth Kalun replied with what might have been a smile. "All young species are. Like children discovering the world is larger than their village." Later, in their private meeting room, Carter's team processed the encounter. "They think we're pets," Colonel Pearson said bluntly. "Worse," Lisa added. "They think we're primitive. Did you see how they smiled when we mentioned our Mars colony? Like we were toddlers proud of a finger painting." Carter looked out the window at the alien ship hovering visible in the sky. "They've shown us one thing clearly," he said finally. "The galaxy isn't going to welcome us with open arms. We're going to have to earn our place." He turned to his team, determination in his eyes. "And that starts with showing them they've underestimated us." 3 weeks after first contact, the invitation arrived. The Galactic Council requested Earth to send a small delegation to attend a formal council session on Harmonious Prime, their massive space station serving as the center of interstellar diplomacy. "They're testing us," Carter said, looking at the holographic message floating above the conference table. This is our chance to show them who we really are. President Adams nodded. Pick your team carefully, William. The future of our species might depend on it. Carter selected 5 people. Lisa Novak for communications, Dr. Olivia Swanson for her brilliant work in xenolinguistics, Colonel Jack Prescott for security and military perspective, Dr. Alan Rivera for scientific expertise, and himself as lead diplomat. Each brought unique skills, but more importantly, each possessed the mental flexibility needed for this unprecedented mission. The Council provided specifications for a docking mechanism compatible with their station, but offered no transportation. The message was clear. If humans wanted a seat at the table, they needed to get there on their own. They expect us to fail, Prescott said during preparation. Our fastest ship would take 15 years to reach Harmonious Prime. Not anymore, Rivera smiled. The Council may have underestimated how quickly humans adapt. The U.S. Endeavour was humanity's newest achievement, a prototype ship incorporating limited reverse engineering from studies of the Council vessel's emissions. Not impressive by galactic standards, but it could make the journey in 1 month instead of 15 years. The morning of departure, thousands gathered to watch. The Endeavour wasn't large, just big enough for the 5-person crew and their supplies. What it lacked in size, it made up for in humanity's hopes. Godspeed, the president told them privately. Remember, you carry Earth with you. Space travel was nothing like in movies. Days passed in routine. The team studied council protocols and alien biology. They practiced diplomatic scenarios and learned what little they could about the 300 species they might encounter. 2 weeks into their journey, they received their first transmission from another ship. The alien vessel dwarfed the Endeavour, approaching with casual speed that made their own ship seem to stand still. Human vessel, came the translated message. This is trade ship Luminous Scale. We did not expect to encounter your kind so far from your home system. The alien captain, a reptilian being called Maurice, requested permission to board. Carter agreed, seeing an opportunity to learn more before reaching the council. When Maurice entered their ship, he looked around with what they recognized as amusement. You travel in this? He asked. I am surprised it maintains atmosphere. It serves our needs, Carter replied calmly. Maurice produced a small device. Council Standard Translator. Your current model is outdated. He handed it to Swanson. A gift from one traveler to another. After Maurice departed, Swanson examined the device. This is interesting, she said finally. The standard translator includes subtle hierarchical markers in its programming. It's designed to make less advanced species sound childish. Can you fix it? Carter asked. Better. Swanson smiled, her fingers already working on the device. I can use it to understand what they're really saying, while controlling how we sound to them. As they approached Harmonious Prime, the magnificence of the station became clear. It was like a small moon, with spires and docking bays extending in all directions. Ships of all sizes moved in coordinated patterns around it. My God, whispered Rivera. It must house millions. Focus. Carter reminded them as a docking controller contacted their ship. Remember why we're here. The Endeavour secured permission to dock at a small bay designated for provisional species. As they prepared to disembark, Lisa pulled Carter aside. William, I've been analyzing the council communications. The way they announced our arrival to the station, they're presenting us as a curiosity, not as potential members. Carter nodded, straightening his uniform. Then let's give them something they don't expect. He looked at his team. The best Earth had to offer. Let's show them what humanity really is. Stepping onto Harmonious Prime was like entering a dream. The air had a sweet quality that Earth's atmosphere lacked. The gravity felt slightly lighter, but most striking was the diversity of life forms moving through the vast docking area. Stay close, Carter instructed his team as their escort approached. The escort, a tall being with smooth green skin and 4 eyes, introduced himself as Attendant Glix. "I will show you to your accommodations. The Council has assigned you visitor quarters in Sector 42. As they followed Glix through the station, the humans struggled not to stare. Beings of all shapes moved purposefully around them, some floating, others crawling along walls, many walking on varying numbers of limbs. Some appeared almost human, while others defied categorization entirely. "How many species live here?" Rivera asked Glix. "Harmonious Prime hosts representatives from all 327 Council species, plus diplomatic missions from 89 non-member civilizations," Glix replied without slowing. "Your species is the 416th to visit." They passed shops, gardens, and what appeared to be restaurants. Holographic signs shifted languages automatically as different beings approached them. The technology everywhere was seamless, almost invisible in its perfection. Sector 42 is designated for emerging civilizations, Glix explained as they entered a simpler section of the station. "Your quarters have been adapted to approximate Earth conditions." The rooms were basic but comfortable. After Glix left, Swanson activated a device she had brought. "Scanner shows no obvious listening devices, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're monitoring us somehow," she said. "Everyone get some rest," Carter ordered. "Council session begins in 12 hours, and we need to be at our best." Despite exhaustion from their journey, sleep came difficultly in the alien environment. The next morning, they dressed in their formal diplomatic uniforms and followed a new escort to the council chamber. Nothing could have prepared them for its scale. The chamber was a massive dome, with thousands of seats arranged in concentric circles. In the center stood a raised platform where speakers could address the assembly. Beings of all descriptions filled the seats, their quiet conversations creating a background hum that the humans felt in their bones. "This way," their escort directed, leading them to seats in the outermost ring, the farthest possible position from the center. "We're being marginalized," whispered Prescott, "physically and symbolically." "Noted, but don't react," Carter replied quietly. The session began with announcements in a language their translators rendered in strangely formal English. Various representatives spoke on matters ranging from trade disputes to scientific collaborations. Hours passed before humanity was even mentioned. "We now recognize the presence of representatives from Sol 3, locally known as Earth," announced the council speaker, a blue-skinned Sorlaxian that Carter recognized as Ambassador Zethkalun. "They have been granted observer status for this session." A murmur rippled through the chamber as attention briefly turned to the human delegation. Carter felt thousands of alien eyes examining them with a mixture of curiosity and dismissal. "The humans have requested 3 minutes to address the council," Zethkalun continued, his tone suggesting this was an unusual indulgence. "The council has graciously granted this request." Carter stood, straightened his uniform, and walked with deliberate confidence to the central platform. The distance seemed designed to intimidate, but he maintained his pace, neither hurrying nor hesitating. Reaching the platform, he faced the assembly, acutely aware of how small and alone he appeared before the Galactic gathering. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "Humanity thanks you for this opportunity." "Notice their primitive propulsion technology," a voice interrupted in what was clearly meant as a private comment, but the translation system broadcast it through the chamber. "It's remarkable they made it here at all." Laughter rippled through sections of the audience. Carter paused, then smiled. This was the moment that would define humanity's first impression. His response would echo across the stars. Carter let the laughter fade before speaking again. His smile never wavered. "Yes, our ships are primitive by your standards," he acknowledged. "Just as I imagine your ancestors' first vessels seemed primitive to you now. All journeys begin with a single step. Humanity is taking ours." The chamber quieted somewhat, surprised by his composure. "Earth thanks the Council for the opportunity to learn from those who have traveled the stars longer than us. We come seeking knowledge, cooperation, and mutual respect." Carter finished his brief address and returned to his team. The council moved on to other matters, but the humans noticed the occasional glances from various representatives. "Well handled," Swanson whispered. "You've got them curious, at least." The session continued for hours. Most discussions involved matters beyond Earth's current concerns: disputes over mining rights in distant star systems, regulations on dimensional gateways, arguments about terraforming ethics. As the session ended, Ambassador Zeth Kalum approached the human delegation. Impressively composed, "Ambassador Carter," he said, "many new species respond emotionally to their first council session. We appreciate the opportunity to observe," Carter replied carefully. "Since you've shown such composure," Zeth Kalum continued, "perhaps you would be interested in a more active participation. The Education Committee is meeting tomorrow to discuss the integration of emerging civilizations. Your perspective could be entertaining." The invitation was clearly meant as another opportunity to mock humanity, but Carter recognized it as a chance they couldn't afford to miss. "We would be honored," he said. Back in their quarters, Prescott paced angrily. "They're treating us like children at the adults' table. Did you hear those comments about our charming attempts at diplomacy? I caught at least 17 intentional mistranslations designed to make us sound foolish," Swanson added. "If I hadn't modified our translators, we wouldn't have known they were laughing at us, not with us." Carter listened calmly. "This is all expected. New species face hazing. We need to prove ourselves." "How?" Lisa asked. "We can't compete technologically. We're centuries behind most of them." Before Carter could answer, a notification chimed. They had received an official message from the Council Education Committee. It was not what they expected. "They've issued a challenge," Carter said, reading the message. 3 days from now, we're to present a solution to a diplomatic problem before the full council." Rivera leaned over his shoulder. "What kind of problem?" "A border dispute between two council races, the Tholians and Medusans. It's been ongoing for over 8,000 years. 8,000 years, Prescott exclaimed. "And they expect us to solve it in 3 days." "They don't expect us to solve it at all," Lisa realized. "They're setting us up to fail spectacularly." Carter studied the attached files detailing the ancient conflict. The Tholians are crystalline beings. The Medusans exist as gas clouds. They've been fighting over a star system with planets valuable to both physiologies. 8,000 years, Rivera repeated, shaking his head. "If they haven't solved it in that time." Carter looked up suddenly. "Or they haven't wanted to solve it." Something in his tone made everyone pay attention. Why would a conflict persist for millennia unless someone benefited from its continuation? "What are you thinking?" Swanson asked. "That we need to look deeper. Much deeper." Carter's eyes had the intensity they recognized from his hardest negotiations on Earth. "Prescott, I need you to make friends. Find other species who might resent the council hierarchy. Rivera, analyze everything about Tholian and Medusan biology. Lisa, get us access to historical records. Swanson, find out who profits from this conflict." "And you?" Lisa asked. Carter smiled. "I'm going to learn everything about a conflict that's lasted longer than human civilization. Because there's always a pattern, always a solution. And if they think this challenge will embarrass humanity, they're about to learn how dangerous it is to underestimate us." The next 2 days passed in a blur of activity. The humans converted their quarters into a war room, with holographic displays showing thousands of years of Tholian-Medusan relations. "I found something," Swanson said during their second night. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "The translation of the original treaty has a mistake, possibly deliberate." Carter leaned over the ancient text. "What kind of mistake?" "The Tholian word for exclusive rights is nearly identical to their word for shared stewardship. The difference is a single harmonic in their crystalline language that most translator systems miss." Carter's eyes widened. "So the treaty that started the conflict was mistranslated," Swanson confirmed. "The Tholians thought they were agreeing to exclusive mining rights in the Vega system. The Medusans believed they were agreeing to a shared arrangement. That's our starting point. Carter nodded. But why hasn't anyone noticed this in 8,000 years? The answer came from Prescott, who had been meeting with representatives from less influential council species. I made friends with a Mantodian trader, he reported. They're insectoid beings who've also faced discrimination. According to him, certain council members profit enormously from the conflict. How? Rivera asked. Both the Tholians and Medusans need specialized equipment to harvest resources from the disputed planets. Guess who manufactures that equipment? Let me guess, Lisa said. The Torlaxians. And their closest allies, Prescott confirmed. They've been selling to both sides for millennia. Peace would destroy a very profitable business. Carter paced the room. So we have a conflict based on a mistranslation, perpetuated by those who profit from it. He stopped suddenly. Rivera, what did you find about their biology? Rivera pulled up his research. The Tholians and Medusans are physiologically fascinating. Despite their differences, one crystalline, one gaseous, they share something remarkable. Both species can absorb and process solar radiation in ways we don't fully understand. And the disputed system, Carter pressed, has a star with unique radiation properties that both species find extremely valuable. They've been fighting over who gets to use it, but here's the interesting part. They use different parts of the radiation spectrum. There's no actual resource competition. Carter's eyes lit up. They could both use the same star without interfering with each other. In theory, yes, Rivera agreed. But 8,000 years of hatred isn't easily overcome. Lisa contributed her findings next. I found historical records showing that before this conflict, the Tholians and Medusans were actually trading partners. They had complementary technologies and resources. Through the window of their quarters, the humans could see the vast expanse of the station, teeming with life forms from across the galaxy. Somewhere out there, representatives of two ancient species continued a pointless conflict that benefited neither, while others profited from their misery. We need more information, Carter decided. We need to speak directly with both sides. Getting access wasn't easy. The Tholian and Medusan representatives rarely spoke with lower-status species, but Carter had noticed something. Both species had junior attaches who seemed frustrated with their seniors. Using Lisa's diplomatic credentials and Prescott's new Mantodian connection, they arranged quiet meetings with both attaches. Neither knew they were meeting humans until they arrived. The Tholian junior delegate, a crystalline being named Kirtak, vibrated with surprise when Carter explained their purpose. You seek to solve what we have not in 8 millennia. The crystal facets of Kirtak's form reflected light in patterns that showed skepticism. Sometimes fresh eyes see what familiar ones cannot, Carter replied. Hours later, they met the Medusan attache, a swirling cloud of gas contained in a force field and named Zephyrin. The being pulsed with different colors as Carter again explained their purpose. Why would humans care about our ancient dispute? Zephyrin's voice came as modulated sound waves from the containment field. Because, Carter said simply, someone needs to care about truth more than profit. As they returned to their quarters to prepare their presentation, Carter knew they had one chance. One opportunity to either elevate humanity's standing or confirm the Council's dismissive view of their species. Get some rest, he told his team. Tomorrow, we show the Council who humans really are. The Council chamber was packed. Word had spread about the human challenge. Many came to witness what they expected would be an entertaining failure. Carter stood with his team at the entrance. Remember the plan, he said quietly. No matter what happens, we stay calm and stick together. They walked to their assigned seats. Carter noticed both the Tholian and Medusan delegations watching them with what he interpreted as curiosity. Ambassador Zeth Kalun stood at the central platform, his forearms arranged in a formal posture. Today we witness an unusual event, Zeth Kalun announced. The representatives of Earth have accepted a challenge to propose a solution to the Tholian-Medusan dispute, a conflict that has persisted for 8,000 cycles, despite the efforts of our finest diplomats. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Carter caught several phrases his modified translator picked up: presumptuous primitives, entertaining diversion, doomed to embarrassment. The humans will have 15 minutes to present their proposal, Zeth Kaloon continued, making it sound like a generous allowance. Ambassador Carter, you may approach. Carter walked slowly to the central platform. Instead of bringing data pads as most speakers did, he carried nothing. This drew curious looks from the assembly. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Carter began. We thank you for this opportunity to address such an ancient and complex issue. His voice was steady and confident. Before presenting our solution, I must address something important. Carter paused, scanning the chamber. In our research, we discovered evidence that certain council members have deliberately prolonged this conflict for personal profit. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Zeth Kaloon stepped forward. Ambassador Carter, such accusations are not accusations, Carter interrupted calmly. Facts. He gestured to Swanson, who activated a data transmission. Every representative's personal console lit up with information. These records show shipments of specialized mining equipment to both Tholian and Medusan territories for the past 4,000 years, all manufactured by corporations owned by Council High members. The profit from these sales totals more than the GDP of 17 Council worlds combined. The chamber grew louder. Carter continued, his voice cutting through the noise. More importantly, we discovered a mistranslation in the original treaty. He displayed the ancient text with Swanson's corrections highlighted. The agreement never called for exclusive rights, but for shared stewardship of the system. The Tholian delegation vibrated in what might have been surprise. The gaseous forms of the Medusans swirled more rapidly. But the most tragic discovery, Carter continued, is that there is no need for conflict at all. The Tholians and Medusans utilize different parts of the star's radiation spectrum. They could both use the system without interfering with each other's activities. Now the chamber was in chaos. Zeth Kaloon tried to regain control. This is highly irregular. What is irregular? Carter raised his voice slightly. Is perpetuating suffering for profit. What is irregular is watching two great civilizations fight needlessly for millennia while selling weapons to both sides. Carter turned directly to the Tholian and Medusan delegations. We propose a shared stewardship program. Both species would have full access to the Vega system, with monitoring to ensure non-interference. And to demonstrate Earth's commitment to galactic peace, we offer to serve as neutral administrators during the transition period. Humans. Someone called out, what could your species possibly contribute? Carter smiled. We bring something rare in the galaxy. We have no stake in this conflict. We gain nothing either way. Our only interest is justice and truth. He looked directly at Zeth Kaloon. Humanity may be young among the stars, but we have learned painful lessons about war, greed, and mistrust. We have also learned that peace requires courage, more courage than endless conflict. The chamber had grown strangely quiet. The Tholian Elder Council member rose, crystal form catching the light. We would consider this proposal, the Tholian said. The Medusan senior delegate pulsed agreement. Carter bowed respectfully to both delegations. Earth stands ready to assist. As he returned to his team, Carter felt thousands of alien eyes following him. The Council's perception of humanity had just changed forever. The next 3 days on Harmonious Prime were unlike anything the human delegation had expected. The Council chamber erupted into chaos immediately after Carter's presentation. Some members demanded sanctions against Earth for interfering in Council matters. Others called for investigations into the profit allegations. Most surprising was the reaction from species previously silent in Council proceedings. Dozens of representatives from smaller civilizations spoke up, supporting the human proposal and demanding transparency. You've started something, Lisa told Carter as they watched news feeds in their quarters. Half the station is talking about the human revelation. Carter nodded. We showed them something they didn't expect. On the second day, both the Tholian and Medusan senior delegations requested private meetings with the humans. The crystalline Tholian elder, Shiktar, vibrated in patterns that indicated deep thought. For 8,000 years, we believed the Medusans sought to deny us our rightful access, the elder's translator conveyed. To learn this began with a simple mistranslation. The Medusan High Representative, a complex swirl of gases named Voraxu, pulsed with similar contemplation during their meeting. Our histories teach our young to hate Tholians, the gaseous being communicated. Generations have died in space battles over resources we could have shared. By the third day, something remarkable happened. The Tholian and Medusan delegations agreed to meet together, with the humans facilitating. It was the first direct negotiation between the species in over 2,000 years. Ambassador Zeth Kalun was conspicuously absent from council sessions. Rumors spread that he had been recalled by the Thorlaxian government for consultation. On the final day of their stay, Carter and his team were summoned to a special council session. The atmosphere was different. The humans were assigned seats much closer to the center. The acting council speaker, a dignified avian being, addressed the chamber. Today marks a historic moment in council history. The Tholian and Medusan delegations have agreed in principle to the framework proposed by Earth. A peace accord will be drafted, establishing shared access to the Vega system. Cheers and the alien equivalents of applause rippled through the chamber. Furthermore, the speaker continued, evidence of improper profit from this conflict will be investigated by an independent committee. Carter caught sight of several Thorlaxian representatives shifting uncomfortably. Finally, the Council recognizes the contribution of Earth in this matter. Ambassador Carter and his team have demonstrated qualities that merit reconsideration of humanity's status. 6 months later, Carter stood in the Oval Office, reporting to President Adams. The Tholian-Medusan peace accord is holding, he said. Our diplomatic team on Harmonious Prime reports that implementation is proceeding smoothly. And Earth standing? The President asked. Transformed, Carter replied. We've received diplomatic requests from 27 council species seeking human mediators for their disputes. The Mantodians have proposed a direct alliance. 3 trading guilds have offered technology exchanges, all because we solved one conflict. Because we showed them something they didn't expect, Carter corrected. Not advanced technology or military might, but something many of them had forgotten, the value of fresh perspective and ethical clarity. Outside the White House windows, construction had begun on the new Galactic Embassy complex. Earth was preparing for an influx of alien diplomats seeking human insights. In deep space, the U.S. Endeavour I was under construction, a collaborative project incorporating technology shared by Earth's new allies. It would be 10 times faster than its predecessor. They mocked us, President Adams mused, called us primitive. And now? Carter smiled, remembering the condescension in Zeth Kalun's voice during their first meeting. Now they understand what we've always known, he said. Humanity's strength isn't in our technology or our physical abilities. It's in our adaptability, our creativity, and our capacity to see beyond ancient hatreds to find common ground. The President nodded, and all it took was one diplomat who refused to be mocked. No, Carter corrected gently. It took all of humanity, reaching for the stars together, refusing to accept limitations placed on us by others. He looked up at the night sky visible through the window, where distant points of light represented worlds now open to human exploration. The universe is vast, he said, and we've only just begun.